name is Paul Martinez. I'm the delegate of the Democratic Party for the 64th District, and I'm really here for demands. I want to ask you to raise the minimum wage for our working class, since you have admitted that hasn't moved up for decades. I want you to introduce on the floor a vote to pass Medicare for all, because we have people that are dying here in this country every day, and I want you to stop funding wars. Your vote needs to stop going to fund wars in Ukraine and all around the earth, because war is not beneficial to our society, and we should not be promoting imperialism and money for the military-industrial complex and big oil. And finally, I want you to consider relieving student debt, because that would boost our economy and make all college tuition free for everyone in the United States. And I will end it with free Julian Assange, because he alerted us of how our government was taking advantage of our community.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'm going to answer your questions. I believe you asked about student debt, Medicare for all, funding wars, and of course, raising the minimum wage. So just to be clear, in Long Beach, before the state raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour, as mayor, I proposed raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and 2 years later, the state raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I support the federal minimum wage, and I'm a co-author to support raising the federal minimum wage, which right now is not even $8 federally, and raising that minimum wage. There's a proposal right now, as Bernie Sanders and other members have introduced, to raise that wage, and of course, I support that effort. Second thing you asked for is Medicare for All. I'm a co-author, an original co-author of the Medicare for All bill by Camila Jayapal, which is currently right now in the U.S. Congress. I believe that healthcare is a human right. I also believe that healthcare shouldn't be dependent on your employment, but it should be dependent on every single person in our country should have the dignity of having healthcare. The third thing you asked for, and I'll get to the last one, is asked about student debt. Student debt, as an educator, I of course believe in the elimination of student debt. I believe that what the Supreme Court did to overturn the president's effort to decrease student debt dramatically was wrong, and so I disagree with that, and so I also agree with it. On your final point on funding wars, I'm going to say this, I'll say this in two ways. The first is, if you ask me if the budget of the Pentagon is too large, my answer to you is actually going to be yes. As a mayor of a big city, to me, the Pentagon being the single largest financial piece of the entire budget in the U.S. government, and this idea that we can't even take 1% of the Pentagon budget and reinvest that back into our schools, into our public schools, I just don't believe in that. I think when we had some very tough years when I was mayor of Long Beach, where we had to cut more than 1%. And the council members in the city of Downey will tell you, they've had to cut more than 1% from a budget, more than 2% from a budget. That happens. So the fact that we can't go into the Pentagon and actually find savings to actually fund public schools or fund infrastructure or fund libraries, I just don't agree with it. 2 weeks ago, the annual vote on the National Defense Authorization Act was in front of the U.S. Congress. Because of my position that I don't support the budget of the Pentagon being even larger than the president requested it, I voted against that. So you're asking me as one of maybe 30, 40 people that actually voted against the budget that you clearly don't support. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of my position on that. But where I will disagree with you on is your comments on Ukraine. Now we can disagree. I understand that you may not agree with our support in Ukraine.
Biden is a
terrorist. I do not believe that a free country like Ukraine should be invaded
It is not a free country.
by a tyrant who is Vladimir Putin.
We have a tyrant
and
in
not
office.
be able
Biden,
to
you're a
provide
tyrant
the support
too.
that countries like Ukraine
Our
deserve.
president is a
So
terrorist
I do
tyrant.
believe that as a democracy in the United States,
We're not a democracy.
ensuring that we have strong democracies around the world and that we can do what we can with NATO and our allies to support them is also very, very important. So we're going to just have to respectfully disagree on the funding for Ukraine. And it is okay in the U.S. We should absolutely have a robust national security and strong military in this country. We should also think about our priorities and make sure that we're also adequately funding public schools, which we do not do in the United States. So those are my positions. You may or may not agree with those.
No, Julian Assange.
I want to thank you all
Julian
for
Assange.
being here.
Julian
And
Assange.
I look forward to getting back as much as
You asked
possible.
about Julian
And thank you so
Assange.
much.